Sometimes life is messy. Have you ever wished you could refocus your mind, home, relationships, and work life? Join us as we use research-based information to make practical changes and simplify life. This is Life Simplified.
Welcome to Life Simplified. If you joined us last week, you know that we're dedicating the whole month of July to food, family, and fun as we travel across the state of Kentucky. Today, we're going to be discussing two different regions in the southern part of the state, the Southern Kentucky Vacations Region, as well as the Caves, Lakes, and Corvettes Region. So I'm going to split these apart today, ladies, but I think you could very easily combine these two regions to make a longer trip. And so the first part that we're going to talk about the Southern Kentucky Vacations Region, and this is the relaxing region in the southern part of the state. So it's described as shoreline miles, children's smiles, adventure to the nth degree. This is where to find your wild side. And so this is really all about the water. And as we dig in, we'll notice that we're talking about lakes and a lot of relaxing, enjoying being outside. And so some of the areas of interest in the Southern Kentucky Vacations Region are the cities of Campbellsville and Somerset, and then the lakes Green River Lake, Lake Cumberland, Dale Hollow Lake, General Burnside Island, and Big South Fork National River and the River and Recreation Area. So lots of water. We're talking a whole lot of water in this area of Kentucky. So just thinking about the Southern Vacation Region, have any of you been to this area or explored any of these water areas in this part of the state?
Well, I personally don't think that I have. I've heard of them, but I've never traveled. I've been to like Somerset and Campbellsville, but not for like a vacation or to check out these areas.
The same. I've been through Campbellsville and been through Somerset. I've not been exploring in this area.
I would have to say the same. I have been to Campbellsville because I went to the Druthers. We used to have one in Princeton, and so my husband and I had done a little weekend trip, and we went to Campbellsville and ate there. So I've been there because of that, and I have family that lives in Somerset, so I've kind of explored, but I've never been on the lake part of it though.
So I'm the same as all of you. And this region is probably the region that I knew the least about. And I haven't really been there other than those two cities. Like you both said, or actually everyone said, Campbellsville and Somerset. I've been there, I think, for track meets with the kids and other different sports. And we had a close family friend that went to school in Campbellsville. But they've really just been kind of like stop in and keep going spots. Nothing that I've stayed and explored. And because there's lakes very close to home, I've never thought about exploring these lakes. But there's a lot going on here. And so I will go ahead and, like, full disclosure, like we've shared last week and we'll share as we go, all of this information is coming from the Kentucky Visitor's Guide. That's what we've referenced. You can find it online. You can also get a copy mailed to you if you're someone who likes to take notes and have it in your hand. And so in exploring the online Kentucky Visitor's Guide, I found some itineraries. And so I love travel. Travel planning is really fun for me, but I can dig a little bit too deep. And so they did an excellent job of preparing a 3-day itinerary for both of the regions that we'll discuss today. And so instead of recreating the wheel, I'm really just going over what they have laid out for you. But there are other things that don't get added in here. So I encourage everyone who's listening, if this is where you want to go visit, like explore, there's other things you can do. But they really did an excellent job of hitting the highlights. And so that's what we'll go over today. So we're just going to focus in on this first area of the Southern Kentucky Vacations Region. And so day one is all about the water. And I think that's really going to be the highlight of this region of Kentucky, is just exploring all of these different lakes and water areas. And so one of the things they suggest, and I think it would be a lot of fun, is, renting a houseboat and making that just kind of like where you're going to be. Like, for you to kind of go back in, and that's your home base as you explore the rest of this region. And so there are lots of rental options. There are marinas all around Lake Cumberland, Dale Hollow Lake, and Green River Lake. So you have lots of options. So lots of places that you can visit, lots of things you can do. If you don't want to stay on a houseboat, I understand that may not be for everyone, and that's okay. You do have other options. They have local hotels, so you can explore those, and there's some options there. Or you may be able to find a lakefront cottage, or if camping is your thing. There are lots of options at all of these lakes, so there's something for everyone. But really, they suggest just spending that whole first day on the water, and you can do so much. You can just float around, you can relax, go swimming, you can rent a jet ski if you like to be a little more of a thrill seeker and want to get a little more high octane. Some of the boats you can rent actually have slides, so you can get that. If you have kids, I think they could probably just go round and round sliding into the water all day long. So the first day is really just getting yourself out on the water, doing whatever your preference is. I think there's something for everyone there. The second day, you're going to do a little bit more exploring. And so this day is all about waterfalls and train rides. And I thought this sounded really, really fun. I have 3 kids, and the youngest one is all about trains. And so if ever there's a place we can take a train ride, he is all about it. And so there's some suggestions they give for this day. Again, it's still pretty relaxed. This is not a high energy visit, but I think it's a lot of fun, and there's some different things you can do. So one of the things they say is, maybe get up early so you can take in a sunrise on the lake, especially if you're staying on a boat or you're staying in a cottage by the water, just kind of getting up early, maybe having some coffee, relaxing before the kids get up, and watching the sun come up over the water could be a good way to start your day. But then they suggest packing a picnic lunch, which I think is fun, and we have done that on trips before. It's good when you want to have a day outside exploring and you don't want to have to search around for a restaurant. So maybe pack a picnic lunch, and then they suggest you drive to Stearns, Kentucky, to the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area, because this is where you can get a ticket to ride on the Big South Fork Scenic Railway. So if riding a train sounds like something that would be fun, then this is where you can do that. And so you get to take a ride into history as you visit a coal company town and explore the legacy of mining in the eastern Kentucky mountains. And I didn't even know that was something that was offered in this area of the state. So I think that is something pretty neat that we could do in this area.
I think that would be fun for anybody, even if you don't have children.
Absolutely.
But especially if you have children who like to ride a train. But just the thought of being on a train, because that's not something you really do every day.
No, we don't have as many just like passenger trains anymore, especially in this area of the country. We have a lot more cargo trains. But I think this is a really neat way to be able to like have a scenic ride and to explore that area of the state and to really be able to relax. Because, if you're like us, when you're driving, it can be fun, but it can also be stressful, because if you don't know where you're going, you're constantly looking at your GPS, trying to make sure you're not making the wrong turn. But this, you can just kind of take in the scenery, relax, and have an experience that you don't get to have every day. So I thought that sounded like a lot of fun, and I think a train ride would be great for anybody. And then when you get back to the station, because you're already in that area, you can drive into the recreation area and hike at Yahoo Falls. And I did not know about this, but this is the state's highest waterfall. Did anybody know that? Have y'all heard of Yahoo Falls before? I had not heard of that. And I love a good waterfall, and I love a good hike. So I thought this was really cool. So it's the state's highest waterfall. So I think definitely if you're in that area, I would want to check that out. And so it says you can take a 1-mile loop down to the 113-foot falls. So that's a pretty decent sized waterfall, and a 1 mile loop is not a bad hike. So almost anybody can do a hike like that. It doesn't sound like it's one of those that's gonna be very strenuous. You're gonna have to dedicate your whole day to it. It's something you can all do. And it says you can actually go behind the curtain of the water, which I think is really neat. We've done that on some other hikes we've done, but not every waterfall you can get that close to it, and you certainly can't always go back behind it. So that would be a really cool experience if that's something that you're into. But it will take you behind the curtain of the waterfall, and then you can go back up to the top. So that would be a lot of fun. And so that's a day, like, it's right there beside the train, ride your train, and then you get to go outside and get a little exercise. So that sounded a lot of fun to me. And I thought that was a great suggestion and something I did not know existed. And then they talk about food, which, I mean, I'm hungry right now. So food is always a good topic of conversation. And so one of the things that they point out is that this region, one of the big things that they are all about is fried catfish. And of course, with all of these lakes and waterways, that makes perfect sense that fried catfish would be one of their big offerings. And so one suggestion that they give, and they said there's plenty, and they said ask a local. So if you run into a local, ask a local. And I do think that that's the best advice when you're traveling. Like, where do locals eat? That's where the best food's going to be, because everything else is chains. And while chains can be fabulous, it's good to eat some good home cooking that is native to the area you're in. And so they have Rowena Landing Restaurant at Lake Cumberland State Resort Park. And it said that they're especially known for their fried catfish. So if you're in that area, you're close by, you may want to stop in there and give it a try. And if not, ask a local, like they say, and you may find, a hidden gem. And I think those are the ones you really want to go for. So that's a good suggestion. So that's day 2. So we've had a great time so far. Day 1, we've been relaxing at the water. Day 2, we're getting outdoors. We're doing some cool stuff. And then day 3 is about apple picking and sightseeing. And so a little bit, different, but some cool stuff. So for our history buffs, this day is for you. We've got something in there for you. So you can explore the area's rich Civil War National Monument in Nancy, Kentucky. And so this is the home of the battle marking the Union's first victory in the Western Theater. And so there is a 9-mile driving tour that includes 10 interpretive stops, or you can hike a trail on the battlefield itself to learn more. And I did not know about this. Had any of you heard about this stop? I'm going to take that as a no.
I had not.
Maybe vaguely remember once you mentioned it, but I've never been.
I mean, it sounds neat. I had not heard of it either. And I think we've mentioned before, I know, Amanda, your husband likes history. My son really likes history. I think this would be a cool stop. Now, for those of us that maybe aren't so in it, may not be, but I think you can always learn something new. And I love the fact they have those interpretive stops, and then also that you could hike. So maybe you have some family members that aren't into the history part, but they like the outdoors and hiking. You get a little bit of everything there. So that is one of your first stops for day 3. And then it says this fertile part of Kentucky is well known for its lush farms and wineries. So be sure to check out a few of those. So wineries in the area, lots of farms, and they give some ideas of some different farms and wineries you might want to go to. So they suggest Haney's Appledale Farm and Bear Wallow Farm, and those are both in Nancy. So if you're already in Nancy and you're touring the Civil War National Monument, then afterwards you can go on over here and check out either Haney's Appledale Farm or Bear Wallow Farm, or you can head over to Heavenly Haven Farm, which is in Columbia, so that's not too far either. And then you can sip and stroll among the grapes at Cave Hill Vineyard and Winery in Eubank before you head back to your lake and maybe catch a sunset. You've already had a sunrise, so seeing the other side of the day. So that's kind of how they wrap up your visit there. I think it's a really cool 3 days. There's a lot packed into that, but nothing that seems too stressful or overwhelming. It seems like a very relaxing 3 days. And like I said, there's so much more also in this area, but I think they did a good job of mixing it up and hitting the highlights. I think that sounds good. Is there anything in this area that you all think you would want to check out after talking about about it? Because I knew nothing about this region until looking into this.
I definitely want to see the waterfall.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great time. And the whole trip based on this itinerary seems very, like you said, relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of times what I'm looking for on a vacation. While it is relaxing, it also seems like you're doing something, which is what my child is looking for on vacation. So it looks like there's lots to do while also not getting super stressed by trying to do all the things.
Yeah, I think that was something that I thought was neat, because at first when I started looking, I thought, well, this is just going to be on the lake, and I love the water, but I don't know if I can do 3 days of that with nothing mixed in. But they gave a lot of suggestions, and there's a lot in this area where you can still be relaxed but not bored. And I think if you're a parent, you probably hear a lot of "I'm bored," but I don't think with this itinerary you would have a lot of boredom. I think there's enough variety of things to do, and a little something for everybody, depending on what your interests are and how you like to vacation. So I think it's a really neat region. I think it's worth taking a visit to, exploring some of these things. And I think you could easily combine this region with the next region that we're going to talk about, because they are right there side by side on the map in the southern part of the state. And so as we transition into the Caves, Lakes, and Corvettes region, this region is a little more fast-paced. There's a little more excitement and a lot more going on that's fast. So if you combine the two, you can get that mix of more relaxed and outdoorsy with a lot of fun stuff in the Bowling Green region. And so the areas of interest in the caves, actually first, I will tell you how they describe this one, because this will let you know why we're not as relaxed here. They describe the Caves, Lakes, and Corvettes region as where you can experience some of the most magnificent natural attractions and full throttle adventures in the Bluegrass State. So we're going full throttle. So we left relaxing, and now we're going. But there's some really cool stuff here. And some areas of interest for this region are Bowling Green, Cave City, Mammoth Cave, Nolan Lake, Barren River Lake, and Old Mulkey Meeting House. So, before we dig into the itinerary for 3 days in this region, have you been to the Caves, Lakes, and Corvettes region of the state, and what have you done there?
I have. I've actually, when my kids was younger, we went, and they used to have a dinosaur park there at the Cave City.
Yeah.
And then we also went and explored far as the caves systems as well. Now, I done a training, I think last year at the Cave City Convention Center. And so I didn't get to explore very much. So I'm not sure if they still have the dinosaur park there and that. But if you have children, if it's there, I encourage you to take them, because it was really a cool place. And then I've been to Bowling Green because one of my children lived there. So, I've explored there a little bit.
The dinosaur area is on my list for the summer to take my son to. So I've been trying to find a good time to go. So that is on my list. But I have been to the National Corvette Museum, which is in that area. And that's really a neat place, because we got to go after the Corvette sunk.
Yeah.
And so they actually preserve that hole, and you get to look at it. So that's a pretty neat experience. And then, of course, the caves. I would like to go back and do more of that, but we've been to Mammoth Cave.
I've been to several places in this area, and you've mentioned Mammoth Cave, and I have not been to the dinosaur park, which I'm kind of surprised that we have not done that. But we did go to, actually, I believe it was last summer or last spring, we went to Kentucky Down Under.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool experience. It's that Australian themed amusement park. And my daughter was really excited because she got to see a lemur.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was super pumped about this lemur.
So, like you all, I have a lot more experience visiting this region than the region we previously talked about, because the Caves, Lakes, and Corvettes region is about an hour from my house. So it's really close by. I did go to school for my master's degree in Bowling Green at Western Kentucky University, so I was there for that. But some of these places you all mentioned, I haven't been, but my kids have been. So they go to a summer camp every year, and they do a lot of traveling in this region and hit a lot of the areas and the activities that we're going to mention here. And you all have mentioned a lot of what is on the 3-day itinerary. So these are some really hot spots and some fun things that you can do for the whole family. So I think as we talk about this, we may have some input if there's some things or experiences you've had at these places that our listeners might enjoy knowing about. Please jump in. But we're going to start day one with race cars, roller coasters, and underground rivers. So, hey, that full throttle, we're already there because all of those things are a lot, and it sounds really exciting. So, some of you may or may not know that Kentucky is the proud home of a timeless American automotive icon. And you can get vacation off to a racing start at the National Corvette Museum, which Amanda mentioned. And it is really cool. My kids have been there several times and they always enjoy it. But it's in Bowling Green. They have more than 70 Corvettes on displayed. So you can see all kinds of different Corvettes. So if cars are your thing, or if you just think they're really cool because they are, then this would be good for you. So they also have these Corvettes displayed in period settings, so settings that would make sense to when they were manufactured. And that includes a mid-century barber shop, a service station, and a historic racetrack. So once you do that, and this is something I didn't know about. I knew that we had a National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, but after you leave there, you can go over to the adjacent dual track NCM Motorsports Park to watch a race. So I didn't know that was there because I haven't been to the museum, but have y'all done that? Have you ever gone over to the motorsport park and watched a race? And it says, or even take a lap behind the wheel. So I think you can even do a driving experience there.
Yeah, I have not done that, but when we were there, I saw where you could rent a Corvette and race it for the day.
Nice.
I'm not sure what restrictions there are on that or what that is, but it does sound like a cool experience.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And like, I'm just thinking this could be a really cool, if you have someone in your life who is all about cars, or then I think this would be a really cool like birthday. Let's go, let's hit the museum and then take a lap, rent the Corvette and take a lap in it and see how that goes. After you've gotten in all of your time at the Corvette Museum and you've maybe taken in a race or you've raced yourself, then you can find one of the great spots in Bowling Green to get lunch. And I think there is like endless opportunities of places to eat in Bowling Green. It's a really great city. I think what I love about Bowling Green is you get the big city options, but you have a really small town feel there. So it's a good place to visit and you will not lack somewhere to eat. But once you're done with that, after you've had lunch, then you can take a ride on Kentucky's only underground boat tour at Lost River Cave. So have any of you been to Lost River Cave? This is another one of those things my kids have done with their camp. I have not done it, but they've always had a good time.
I've been there and I have done the underground boat tour. And the reason I even thought about doing that, my cousin got married at Lost River Cave, and then the reception was actually in the cave, which was super cool. And then I had another friend just recently get married there.
Nice.
But in between those, I said, I want to go back and I want to tour the cave and do all that. So we did take that underground boat tour and we walked around a little bit. There's some different trails, but it was fun.
Cool. Yeah, I forgot that it's a wedding venue. I've known some people that have gotten married there too. So maybe if you're listening and you're looking for a really cool spot for your wedding, that could be an option as well. So you can take the boat ride, the underground boat tour, and then when you venture above ground, there's lots of nature trails. You can explore an outdoor classroom that is actually certified by the Arbor Day Foundation, and so there's a lot to do there. And so if you're like me and going in caves is not your thing, there's still some things you can do, and there's going to be more caves on this itinerary, by the way. So we're not done caving. There's lots of opportunities. If you're visiting this region during the summertime, then you can visit Beach Bend Park. And so Beach Bend Park has amusement park rides I think about 40 of them. But then they also have a water park. So there's a lot of things you can do there. They have a wooden roller coaster. They have a wave pool, water slides, kids play pool areas, splash lagoons, all kinds of things you can do. So if you're there in the summertime, this may be a really fun thing, especially with kids, or if you just like water parks and rides, there should be something there for everyone. Again, my kids have done this. I have not. So clearly my kids explore this region without me on the regular, but they really, really enjoyed Beachman Park. So if you're there when the weather permits, that may be something that you want to explore and do. Have you all been to Beachman?
I have not. My children have, but I have not.
All right, so we're all in the same boat. We're sending our kids, but we have not been. So maybe we need to all check it out as well. So day 1 was busy. We did a lot. Day 2, Amanda, we're doing dinosaurs and down under adventures. So if you're thinking about taking your little one there, the dinosaurs are still there, Joni.
Hey.
And they're doing well. So if you want to travel just 30 minutes north, then you can visit Dinosaur World in Cave City. And my kids have been on school trips to Dinosaur World. That's one of the places they have visited. I have not. Clearly, this is just, I don't know. But you can unearth a life-size dinosaur skeleton in the boneyard. So that's cool. You can learn about fossils in their indoor prehistoric museum. And you can walk through mammoth gardens. And I think this is the part that the kids are really excited about because they have more than 150 life-sized dinosaur replicas. So that's pretty cool. That's neat because, being able to see those life-sized, I think anybody who's into dinosaurs would really enjoy that. So that would be a cool way to start your day and check out Dinosaur World. And then after you've done Dinosaur World, we can go visit Kentucky Down Under, which Ashley mentioned. And like she said, it's an Australian themed amusement park. And so you get to do all kinds of really cool Australian themed things like petting kangaroos and playing a didgeridoo. Let me ask you, did y'all play a didgeridoo when you were in Kentucky Down Under?
We did not, but we did pet the kangaroos, and we spent quite a bit of time in the kangaroo section.
Nice.
That was really, really cool to see because you could see the small ones and the mamas, and it was just.
Did you get to see any joeys in pouches?
I don't think there were that day or that we saw, but we got to make friends with lots of kangaroos.
Nice. So you get to do that. You can explore and learn a lot about the Aboriginal culture of Australia. You can feed rainbow lorikeets. I mean, there's so many things here. There's an Australian sheep farm. So not anything that you would necessarily be like, oh, I'm going on a trip in Kentucky. I'm going to go to an Australian themed amusement park. But this is really cool and something definitely different that I can guarantee you're not going to do just any day. And then while you're there, you are close to Kentucky Caverns. So you may want to go visit that. And you can make a reservation to stay overnight in Horse Cave or Cave City. Or if you want to do something really different and have a really different experience, this is where historic Wigwam Village number 2 is. It's right there in Cave City. So if you want to spend the night in a teepee that has been made into a hotel or a motel, this is actually part of the National Register of Historic Places. And I looked up their website because I've always thought this was really neat, but I've never been there. I never had the opportunity to stay there. But it is on that National Registry. And so as such, they're working really hard to preserve it and to make updates to it so that it'll be here for generations to come. So that would be really fun if you know you're going to go to this area, if you want to make a reservation there and get to stay in Wigwam Village. That would be, a really neat addition to your trip because you're already right there in that area. Have any of y'all stayed there? I didn't.
No, I've looked at it several times.
Yeah.
And I was thinking if we did go, not that we're that far from Bowling Green, but I thought if we went to Dinosaur World, we could add that to our list of things to do.
Yeah, that really, like, think about the variety of just day 2 here. Dinosaur World, and then Kentucky Down Under with the Australian theme, and then getting to stay in Wigwam Village. That would be a really interesting day, like getting to really do some things that you don't get to do just anywhere. So that's kind of cool. And then day 3 is the big day, probably the day that everybody's been thinking about for this region, and it's Mammoth Cave. So for our listeners, Mammoth Cave National Park is the world's longest cave system and an international biosphere reserve. So it's kind of a big deal. For us, it's right in our backyard, literally, but it is known all around the world. So it's really cool that it's right here, so close to us. But there's a lot you can do there. So you can go on a below ground cave tour. You can marvel at famous rock formations such as Frozen Niagara and Gothic Avenue. You can see prehistoric artifacts and venture to the underground water level to view River Styx, which flows beneath the park. And so there's a lot to do here. One thing I did want to note, because they do note it in this itinerary, I think it's important. Admission to the national park is free, so you don't have to worry about that. But there are fees for camping and cave tours. And if you know you want to go, it can get very, very busy. And so you're going to want to make your cave tour reservations ahead of time so that you don't get there and get really disappointed that you're not going to be able to do those things that you thought you were going to do, because you're definitely going to want to make this part of your visit in this region. Now, again, I've mentioned super claustrophobic. The cave thing is not going to work for me, but if that's you too, don't let it stop you from taking your family, because there's a lot of things above ground that you can do in this national park as well. So, if you like hiking, horseback riding, biking, picnicking, camping, canoeing, fishing, all of those things take place in this area as well. So don't be like, oh, I can't go in the cave, I'm not going to do. There's something for you. You're going to have something to do and you're going to enjoy it. So don't let that stop you. How about you all? Mammoth Cave, I think for us growing up in this part of the state, it's kind of a rite of passage as a field trip. And so I have actually been in Mammoth Cave, and I do remember some of those highlights as a child before I realized that I could be like, no, thank you, I don't want to go in there. But I do remember enjoying it. I think what stands out the most to me is when they turn the lights off and you're like, whoa, that's the darkest dark I've ever seen in my life. But it was cool. And I think I also remember, and y'all stop me if I'm wrong, is this where the fish don't have eyes because they don't need them because they're just in the dark, and so they've like genetically adapted to their environment? I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I remember something from childhood being like, well, that's odd, but okay, cool. Mammoth Cave is, I think if you're going to do this trip in this region, it's definitely one of the highlights. But there's been a lot to do in this region. And like I said, as laid back and relaxed as the other region was, this one has a lot going on, and it's fast paced, and there's a lot going for you there. But I think they'd be a great combination trip. If you're looking for a whole week, you could easily kind of mix and mingle this one. So now that we've discussed this area, is there anything there that you've not done that you want to get back into that region and visit?
Okay, I'm going to go back. I Googled it.
Okay.
Because I wanted to see about the fish, and you are correct.
Yeah!
You
y'all
are correct. These are called eyeless fish, is what it says.
Okay.
Yep. They've adapted to lightless, low-energy environment that seeks to grow eye structures and unnecessary skin pigments.
Okay, y'all. So that is proof that I did, in fact, go in the cave. I have gone in Mammoth Cave because I guess that was so like, whoa, to my brain when I was an elementary school student, because I know this was elementary school. I'm going to guess 3rd or 4th grade. I don't know for sure. But it definitely made an impact. So y'all listen, see, you can learn things for life at Mammoth Cave.
You need to remember, if you remember who your teacher is, go back and be like, hey, I remembered this. You did a great job taking us there.
Nice. Yeah. If I can figure out which grade, I think I can figure out which teacher. So I will explore that. But I'm really glad that was true though, because I was like, if I made that up, that was really a weird thing to make up. So Thank you for fact checking me on that. I feel better. All right, cool.
Start with 4th grade. We went in 4th grade. Which
Okay.
I know we went to different schools, but
Yeah.
maybe that was just back in our day. Maybe that was the thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. It feels like it was roughly that age because I can remember it enough that I don't think it was like kindergarten or 1st grade. I feel like that would be way too fuzzy to remember. And I told my daughter the other day too, because when I was talking about this area, and I told her those two things. I remember how dark it was. I remember the fish with no eyes, and then I remember that like everyone had to go buy something, and everyone bought the fool's gold. Like everybody's like buying the rocks, like we're gonna buy gemstones and rocks, and everybody got the fool's gold, which was the most like generic thing you could possibly have bought as a souvenir from this visit. So you too can go and get, I'm sure, some fool's gold still today. But yeah,
And that's what your child will probably pick out.
probably. I feel like that's a safe bet. So anything that y'all want to try and explore in this region that you've not been to?
I mean, I would like to go back to, Mammoth Cave, and even as far as Dinosaur Park, and take my granddaughter,
Yeah.
to see all of that, and then her to experience the Kentucky Down Under. It's been years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my youngest child, she was little when I went. It's been years since we've been, so I think that'd be cool to go back and see all of that. So
I think this 3-day itinerary is just what my child would want because it's boom, 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 boom. Something to see and do every second of the day. And while I have been to Mammoth Cave, both as a 4th grader and as an adult, I don't think that my youngest has been to Mammoth Cave. And we wanted to go when we went to Kentucky Down Under, but we did not get a reservation in time. So I can vouch for make sure you get that reservation. Otherwise, you're just going to maybe be disappointed. There's a cave at Kentucky Down Under that you can also go through. So we did get some cave experience, but I think she would really enjoy that. I think the National Corvette Museum would be really fun to do. And I think she would even like Dinosaur World.
Yeah, I think this really is like, if you know that your family and your kids like to have a lot of experiences and a lot, like one thing after another, this is really a good itinerary. And honestly, these are just the itineraries for these two regions. Check out the Kentucky Visitor's Guide and their website. There are so many different itineraries for the whole state. There's some, like, if you want to go across the entire state, or if you want to go to each region, or if you have a theme that you love, if it's horses, if it's whatever, they have it for you. So definitely explore it. Use it as just a jumping off point, because you can take it or leave it. You can add in some things they didn't have and make it your own. And like I said, you may be able to combine a couple different regions and make your own itinerary specifically for your family. But definitely check it out. There's so much to see and do. And when you do, let us know. Post on our Facebook page, send us an email, show us some pictures. We would love to see what you got to see and do across the state as you listen with us this summer. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll check back the rest of the month for all of the amazing regions of the state of Kentucky. This is Life Simplified.
Thanks for listening to Life Simplified. We are family and consumer sciences agents with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. Contact us at lifesimplifiedpodcast@gmail.com.